Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Procrastinator's Pit Stop. I am sitting here with another wonderful guest for you today. I am sitting with Jake Setterlun. Jake is an entrepreneur from Milwaukee who started his business journey at 19, experiencing both million-dollar successes and significant setbacks. So he offers a unique perspective on entrepreneurship and resilience. Jake, welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you so much. Excited to be here.
And we're excited to have you here as well. But before we dive into everything, we do like to have an icebreaker on the show. And the question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most and why?
Yeah, and that was a good one. For me, it's definitely got to be Jimmy Neutron from Nickelodeon. And the reason for that is as a kid, I was always doing, these different prototypes and inventing little things. I remember I tried to make a scooter, like a two-wheeled scooter. I took the wheels off and made it into a ski. And then we attached it to a rope and we're pulling each other around in the snow and everything. So for me, Jimmy Neutron, and even going into my adult life, in the online space, I feel like I still do the same thing, which is just inventing different stuff, but it's online.
I like that. I like that. No robotic dog though, right? You don't have a robotic dog?
Oh, no robotic, not yet. We'll see here. You never know.
I like that. I like it. So, Jake, how would you define procrastination and what does it mean to you personally?
Yeah, so procrastination is something that as I've thought about it over the last, little bit even of just, like what is procrastination and what does that mean to me? It's been rooted in my life since, just being a child. Unfortunately, it's some bad habits I think that were passed down, not throwing shade at any family members or anything like that. Love them all, but it's just something that's there. And, as much as I could blame them, it's also something that is just a habit that was passed on. And it's something that has always been a struggle. And for me, it's the overwhelming feel of like I have all this stuff to do and then I let it build up. And then it's like now it's even bigger. And then another piece of it also for me personally is also I don't like doing things twice. So it's like, okay, I have to do this. And then I envision myself doing it. And I'm like, okay, like it's done in my head, but now I have to do it physically and I don't want to do it. So it's those two things that I struggle with personally the most as far as procrastination goes.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that is pretty common, you know. Yeah, I'm one of those. I don't like to repeat things either. I lost that somewhere along the way though, because I don't know if you were the same, but like when I was a kid and I was watching my favorite movie or favorite cartoons, I could watch that over and over and over and over
Okay.
again, right? I could wear out those VHS tapes. Wow, I'm dating myself. But anyway, somewhere along the line, I'm gonna have to reflect on that. Thank you for that, Jake. I'm gonna have to reflect on that and see where I stopped doing that because you're right. I don't like doing things a second time. I won't rewatch movies now, really. I won't rewatch series even. I won't replay video games. Even the ones that are supposed to be replayed. Weird. I wonder where. Do you know? I'm just curious. Do you know when that might have happened for you? Or well, you started, but
Yeah,
you said
no,
you
that's
started
a
as a child, right?
yeah, I mean, as a child, it was always, just let things build, push it off. But I want to say probably in college when that was at the peak of like I had the most going on from a social perspective, from a education perspective, and then just dabbling with, doing some business stuff. And I had all of this stuff going on. And I think that's when it really came into motion where it was like I would I mean, I guess it's like a dopamine thing where I'm more engaged and I'm getting more of a reward from doing things and like figuring stuff out and problem solving on things that I don't know how to do or, haven't done versus things that I've done before. It's just monotonous and I don't get the same amount of, pleasure that I would from something that I haven't done. So definitely that kind of high school into college kind of transition.
And we all know there's no 100% cure all, or silver bullet for everybody. But what's been your sort of secret sauce to getting it over?
Yeah, so there's definitely been a couple things. And I still struggle with it. It's not something that it's like solved, you're cured of procrastination. It's something that I battle with on a day-to-day basis. For me, it's been lists. And I know that sounds super lame, like that, I'm not woo, meditating in the morning, doing this, and then my day's perfect. Like it's really just putting simple tasks on the board that I know are moving me closer to the end goal, which is accomplishing a project, accomplishing something at work. And then the other piece of it is definitely other individuals relying on me. And I know that's not going to be something that everybody can relate to, but that's also helped when it's like, team, I'm going to have this to you by the end of the week. Well, then it's like, I have to do it. Even if I wait till Thursday night and it's due Friday, like it's going to get done by Friday. So that, along with lists, has definitely been my key to at least staying sane so things just don't build up and I fall in the same habits.
That, it's a very, very straightforward, very easy to explain. I love how you explained it, When you do lists, are you like a paper and pen person? Like I've literally got sticky notes all over the place. Are you a paper pen person or do you use an app?
So I use an app I have on my iPhone. I just do like a note sheet where, I'll have a list of this, this, this. I did start using ChatGPT where at the end of every night, I'll actually have a conversation with it. You can pull up the voice conversation and I'll say, "Hey ChatGPT, help me make a to-do list for tomorrow. Ask me, I'm going to tell you what I need to get done. Ask me questions to clarify and then give me a list." And it'll give me a list. I'll put it in my calendar for tomorrow and then I'll have that laid out. So that's a little bit more of a planning, from a day-to-day perspective. iPhone's on the go. I just have my list, and then I definitely have like lists inside of Slack on my computer where in my notes section I list out different things to do. So that that probably is not a good from an organizational standpoint. Now that I'm saying that out loud, that I have to-do lists pretty much everywhere, but the iPhone list and then ChatGPT and then actually put it in my calendar has been the biggest game changer.
No, I love that. Thanks for sharing it. Let's talk about ChatGPT for a second because I'm interested in how you're using it because you say you're talking to it, you tell it your tasks, then you tell it to make a list. Are you also telling it to prioritize or are you doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's something that I internalize that a little bit, preach at least, for me in business, it's, revenue producing activities, which is getting closer to whatever end goal it is. If we're launching a new product, launching a business, I need to be focused on getting there, not the design of one small thing on the website or something like that. So I internalize that a little bit, but then I also do start every session with ChatGPT as, this is my end goal. This is what I need to get done. Prioritize this in, highest impact to accomplishing the end goal by end date to least and things that don't matter. And then I also have it add in because for me, when I'm noting things down and making lists, sometimes I don't get granular enough and I'll have like these overarching, you got to do this, 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 but like, making a website, there's 15 different things that go into making a website. You have to buy a domain, color palette, logo, all this stuff. So I'll tell ChatGPT and say, hey, add in anything that I missed so that it's super granular and are specific things I can take action on.
Excellent. Now, let me ask you, when you ask ChatGPT that, do you also take in energy into that equation as well? Like when you're most energetic, or is it just based on time that it spits out?
Yeah, so it is just based off time. I don't prompt ChatGPT specifically for that, but I do structure my day to day based off energy. So I'll do deep work and just like, no distractions in the morning, phones flipped over, emails not open, Slack's not open. And I'm doing like, just repeatable, important tasks, on the computer where I'm just very zoned in. And then I take meetings usually after like 11 to 12 o'clock, where energy is a little bit lower, that focus is drained a little bit, but I can still lock back in and engage because it's more, me talking. It's not me staring at a screen.
I like that, and you sound like you've got a lot of great systems already in place, and then you got a lot of stuff that's working for you. Let me ask you, what's your biggest challenge still in everything you've got set up?
Yeah, it's definitely, and I even have a coach that I meet with on a weekly basis that is, kind of a business coach, but they help me, lay out different goals and tasks too, and then I take that to ChatGPT. So it's definitely like this big system, like you said, that I've built to help me structure my day to day for myself. But I definitely still struggle with putting too much on my plate and not focusing on again really what's the end goal, what's very specific, and kind of getting sidetracked into these other areas that I don't need to. And to give you an example, we were launching a new community, and the end goal of the community is to launch these mini products. People buy it and they get added into the community. And I veered off the road and started just running ads like, hey, join the community. We just launched. And I've gotten super deep down into the rabbit hole of, how do you grow a community organically versus the end goal, which is these mini products that lead into it. So that using that as an example, and that, definitely plays into procrastination too, and probably something I need to work on is I'm an individual that I look at the big picture and then I expand that 10x of just like all of these different things that I can be doing and implementing. Then it becomes such a big project that I'm struggling to then take action on because it's like I don't want to start that yet. Like it's this big thing. When in reality it started as a very small project or a small task that I needed to do. So that's definitely one of the biggest things that I struggle with still.
I like that you said that about the ballooning out because that that happens to a lot of people. I mean, it's happened to me too. I like to think about that. Actually, no, Disney has a very good short out now. I think it's Donald Duck changing a light bulb. It's got to change a light bulb, right? And it's
Yeah.
just like everything happens. You start changing the light bulb, and then something else broke, and then you had to fix it. And it's become this huge thing where it came up with him, breaking down a wall, putting up a painting, having to fix it, and all that just from changing the light bulb, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's definitely something that happens enough that they've made a running gag in a video.
That's hilarious. I can relate to that so much. Just goes to show. That's so funny.
So, what do you do, like, personally? What do you do to kind of keep you from I call it kinda shiny object syndrome because I'll be
Sure.
sitting at my desk too, and, I'll be starting to type something, and then, like, I literally just did this now. I'm not sure if you caught it off camera. When I pulled this up and I pulled it back, it wasn't exactly lined up, so I pulled it out and I put it back, and then it came back, right? So, definitely happens a lot.
It's the perfectionism that shines through. But yeah, for the shiny object syndrome, for me, I try to, and maybe this is, I don't know if the right word is narcissistic or egotistical or whatever, but I try to be like, "Oh, I know what they're doing." Like, I'm not worried about that because, like, that's they're just hyping X, Y, and Z up, and I kinda downplay the object of what it might be. So, an example, if I'm to use the growing a community example, if I saw a short where it's like, "I grew my community to from 0 to 100,000 people in X amount of time. Click down below, I'll show you how to do it," or, whatever it might be. I'll just try to downplay it like, "Oh, they did X, Y, and Z." And as much as that's probably a bad habit, it just helps me stay sane because there is so much everybody's talking, online saying, "I can do X, Y, and Z," or "I've done this," or "I've had this success," or, whatever it might be that there's so many options. And again, for me, I just downplay it and I'm just kinda like, "You're smart, you know where to go, you're going in the right direction, you made a good plan, stick to it. Don't get, distracted by everything else going on."
That's I would not say that's narcissistic or egotistical. I mean, that's just recognizing that, comparisons don't really serve any value a lot of the time. And it's interesting because we all do this and we either go, to the left side or the right side. And it's like what you said, right? That so the left side, which a lot of us go to is, oh, they'll see that same ad, 100,000 people in X amount of time, see how I did it. And they'll be like, oh my was 100,000 in that much time, and I've had my community for 3 times that long. Oh, I suck at this. I'm just gonna quit. Then it gathers dust, right? Or they're like you, like your side, and they say, "Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Well, I know what I'm doing. Maybe I'll listen to them. Maybe I won't." But and that's it's a healthier way to look at it too, because again, not everything is going to work 100% of the time for 100% of the people. Let me give you an example of how a comparison can actually like derail you from getting where you want to go. I love this story. I'm not going to take credit for it because I pieced it together from various sources. But so say there's this mountain and the top of the mountain is the goal. And there's a salmon, a monkey, and a mountain goat. And they all want to get to that top. So the mountain goat stares at the mountain for a couple of days and he says, "Oh, screw it, I'm going in." So he starts hopping up, but he's got specially made feet for that. He's a mountain goat. So he goes up, jumps from side to side, gets to the top, bleats out his little victory, right? And, down below, the salmon and the monkey are saying, "Huh." And so another couple of days go by, the monkey's sitting there thinking about it. He's like, I got feet. Let's do it. So he starts walking up the mountain, and halfway up, his feet are all scratched and wrecked because he's not doing it. So he sits down. He's like, but he sits against a tree. He's like, what am I doing? I'm a monkey. Let's go up the tree. So he climbs the tree, and he uses his arms and he swings from tree to tree, gets to the top. He shouts out his victory, and the salmon's down there looking and thinking, and he's like, "Oh, the mountain goat did it. Monkey did it." He sits there and he thinks for another 2 days. He says to himself, "Man, I don't have any feet. I don't have any arms. I'm not even gonna try." But if he'd spent a little more time digging into it, he would have seen the stream that flowed up the side that he could actually jump and go up and get there. And that's what we look at when we compare, right? We start to compare, but we don't understand, the tools they worked with. Well, yeah, maybe we don't have the same tools, but we have other tools that work just as well.
Absolutely. I think that that speaks to a lot of that shiny object syndrome because too you don't really know the full story of, what they had, before they did something or, what other aspect played a role in them getting there, not just, their own will to make it happen.
So let me ask you, because I mean, as an entrepreneur, you've done a lot of successful businesses. You've had your own series of setbacks as you've described them. But when you're setting out to do something, how do you choose a tool? Like, let's just say ChatGPT, you're using it for your task listing now. But I mean, there's also, there's Notion Motion, there's all these other things. How did you choose that tool for you?
It's a good question. For me, I do, kind of keep my ears open for lack of a better term of, different things out there. I try to, really kind of look at like, okay, what are other people using? Is this valid? Is this not valid? But for me, ease of use is the biggest thing. I'll give, everything a shot. I'm, familiar with Motion, familiar with Notion too, for management. I actually just got a new one that I've been using because it was super easy to set up, called Inbox Zero, which basically zeroes out your inbox. ChatGPT kind of takes, or AI, I should say, filters everything out and only gives you the important emails. But it's really ease of use because for me, I don't want to spend so much time like learning just one new tool to do one new thing. I really need something that I can just implement. Boom, it works, and I'm off to the races. ChatGPT, thankfully, has been that tool where it's like, I'm going to give you this, you're going to give me that. We're good. We're good to go. Inbox Zero, as an example, integrate, prompt, boom, done. I don't even worry about it. It just does its thing. Fathom for note taking, same thing. Integrate, boom, does its thing. So for me, when I'm looking at different tools, I keep, again, I keep a lookout for different things on the market, how it might help. But at the end of the day, it's if it's not easy to use and I have to like actually manually think about using it, then unfortunately it's probably not going to stick.
You brought up something pretty important there. It's important. How easy is it for us to maybe become maybe too dependent on these tools? I mean, I can give you a list of a few things that if they went down today, I'd be pretty screwed. So I'm by no means trying to point fingers here, but
For sure.
do you think we need to probably have like a multi-pronged approach or a backup and not rely too much on these tools?
It's funny because I've thought about that a lot the last probably 3 to 4 months as I've gotten deeper down the rabbit hole of ChatGPT, where now it's I don't even like it used to just, you ask it things and then it's like, hey, you can make images. Oh, you can make videos. Cool. Like, and you're just playing around with it and you're tinkering with it. Now it's, I'll send it a voice note and I'm like, make me an agenda for a meeting or create an outline for a program. Or the last one I just did, I mentioned the community we were launching with some course material in there. I talked into my phone for 10 minutes. I uploaded it to ChatGPT and said, hey, make me a full outline with different program breakdowns that I can then go and record for X, Y, and Z course. And I just talk that all into my phone. It makes it. I plug that into another tool called Gamma. Gamma makes me the slide deck, and then I just sit there and record. And Riverside has the, editing tool. I record with Riverside. So you can, change your voice, take out the little, ums and ohs, and, when you repeat yourself. And it's like you used to have to manually sit there, write out content, edit inside of, some kind of editing tool. So it's super interesting to think what my world would be like without ChatGPT specifically, but then also like even Gamma and putting that slide deck together, because I wonder, am I losing that ability to actually think about how I want to put something together because I'm just having, ChatGPT basically put a whole outline together and summarize things. Super interesting.
Oh, it's not only interesting, we're rapidly approaching a time when we're going to need to figure out what to do with ourselves again as a race. If let's just say if ChatGPT is doing everything, what are you doing? And to how much? I mean, that's another thing though. Like, do you feel that there's any part of our business, like you mentioned inbox zero, do you think there's any part of our business we really shouldn't try to automate like that when it comes to like communications or anything like that?
It's a good question. I think sales is always going to be one of those. If you're getting on sales calls and doing that, and just in business in general, I think that can get a little sketchy. And AI is not that good right now. We've played around with AI voice. We have it in some of our businesses, and you can tell but it's going to get to a point where you can't tell the difference between conversation on the phone with AI and not AI. And I think that gets into like an ethical territory where AI is so good at picking up different emotional manipulators and, different things that it could specifically be doing to then lead you to buy some kind of a product. And it's really like the top 0.0001% of salespeople that are really good at like manipulation and wordplay and things like that. So I think personally, that's one of those areas that could definitely be an issue. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
No, I could see that, but I mean, we're also getting to the point where you think sales, but I mean, now there are AI assistants that will go out and contact these not voice, but they'll go out and they'll contact companies on your behalf using emails.
Yeah.
They'll go to live chats and ask you too. So we might just have an AI talking to an AI at some point.
Honestly, you know what's super interesting about that is it used to be you had the brain of the company, which was the owner, or even just a manager. You had an employee, and then you had different tools to do like automations and actually putting things in place. And now it seems like AI has took over the brain of it, and now you have the human that's doing the implementation, where it used to be kind of, a reverse where the human was the brain, and then you had some kind of system or automation. So it's super interesting that it's kind of flopped where now there really is no brain and you just have a human that's implementing everything that gets spit out.
Kind of like the Jetsons, right? You had George Jetson there. His entire job was just sitting and hitting a button and sitting there for like 8 hours and watching it. That's um, yeah.
Pretty much, pretty much.
I don't think I'd ever want to do that though. But I could see that argument. Oh, you're only hitting a button, but you need to sit there for 8 hours because we're paying you a salary, right?
That's yeah. Then I mean, again, that goes down the road of like what's the pay for that type of job, and like that, I guess that's a, even bigger. Everybody's talked about like universal income and all that stuff, for the longest time. And I mean, we're getting close to something being having to be changed based off of where AI is going and the market, and what jobs are going to be important and which jobs aren't. It's interesting. It's a very interesting time.
Well, yeah, I mean, you say interesting, but the elephant in the room, like a lot of people that I coach that have procrastination are now, it's definitely fear of the unknown for now because AI, if you want to be really optimistic in terms of human usefulness, then we're only going to lose about 50% of our jobs over the next decade. If you want to be a pessimist and say that humans are no longer relevant, then we're going to lose 98% of our soft skill. I should have said soft skill jobs. 98% within the next decade. I think the realist option is gonna fall in between 50 and 98%, but I'm not sure where that where that's gonna be. I mean, creative writing, design, coding even, right? Like ChatGPT will
Yeah,
code for you now. So I've got and programming engineers that are in their second year of university, they got 2 years to go. What's gonna happen in 2 years?
crazy.
It's definitely an interesting topic for sure.
It is. It is. I mean, yeah, interesting, but scary. Like, very. I say interesting, but yeah, scary. Scary time to be alive. It's very unknown, and I don't see it going anywhere. Like everybody, some people are just like, oh, it's never going to replace, human jobs and everything like that, but it will, because they already just released Operator, which can basically use a web browser, and it's not that great, but a year down the road, will it? So you don't know.
Well, you are right. Actually, it is replacing jobs right now, and the thing is that there are many of us that haven't noticed this. I can tell you for a fact. I mean, I was working from home before COVID made it cool. I mean, I was on freelancer platforms like Fiverr, Odesk before it became Upwork. And I can tell you from inside sources that, I've actually worked as an account manager at Odesk before it became Upwork. On one specific platform, there were since 2015, okay, since 2015 till now, they have lost 87% of job postings related to SEO, content writing, translating, simple design work, simple updates, and things like 87%
That's
just in those
bad.
areas.
That's a
So,
lot
I
of
mean,
jobs.
it's happening.
Yeah, that is a lot of jobs. I did not know that. That's statistic.
So, I mean, it's all there, but I mean, it's not all doom and gloom either because, maybe we'll all be actors again or something, right? We'll all,
True.
you know, we'll all have time to sing and create instead of, make pizzas, well, not necessarily wash dishes, but, all those other ones, right?
True. Very true.
So, Jake, why don't you tell us what's on the horizon for you next? What's next for you?
Yeah, so for me currently, I mentioned the community and launching that. It's actually something that, has really been the biggest thing on the horizon for me. I mentioned I've been doing the online business, entrepreneurship, hate that word, but the self-employment, just kind of online stuff for a long time and really starting to transition away from being a day-to-day worker in the businesses and having a little bit more free time to actually go and build this community where we can give back and show people like, hey, this is exactly what we did. If you're struggling with this is how I would handle it. I don't know if you're familiar with the term like high ticket. You have high ticket programs. I want to just demolish that because I think it's the stupidest thing in the world in some senses. Now, I'm not saying all of them are bad. I'm not saying mentorship is bad by any means, but a lot of these kids coming out there and saying, join my program, it's $10,000, where it's like, I've been doing this for 10 years and I would rather just give that information out to somebody because I know if I was in their shoes and I know, when I was in their shoes, I would have liked to know, specifically what works, what doesn't. How do you handle, a payment processor being shut down or how do you deal with this situation? So that's really been my passion project lately is just building a community and being able to help people that are trying to build something online.
I agree. I think we do have too many high ticket programs. I do tend to tread carefully because I mean there are programs that they're high ticket, but I mean they're very well established. Tony Robbins and these other ones. But I mean you're right, and I do have mixed feelings about it because I don't do high ticket offers. I've been slapped over the head a few times by some business coaches already about that, but I can't say like if I'm charging you $30,000 for a coaching program, like I should be going out there in person and like, being with you physically to do that for like a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But a lot of these are just online masterminds. I was like, wow. I don't know where that price tag comes from, but I definitely love the idea of your community, and I still believe in Zig Ziglar. Well, you know what he said
What was that?
that you help enough people get what they want, you can get whatever you want.
Yep. Yep. 100%.
So, instead of the golden rule, which is, do unto others as they would do unto you, it's the platinum rule. Do more for others than you would have them do for you.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, with the high ticket courses, 100% on board. I think it's just unfortunately, it's a marketer thing, and I probably fall into that category where you have good intentions, you have good programs, and then you have all of these other individuals that just give it a bad name, unfortunately. And I think that's where a lot of it comes from, the negative connotation with it. But yeah, 100% agree. And that's really the biggest thing with the community is just giving free information and helping as many people as possible.
And well, where are you building your community? I'm curious. Is it proprietary? Is it Facebook? Is it Circle? Is it Odd Circle?
Yeah, so we're currently on School, Skool. Might change that up. You're familiar with Go High Level, I assume.
Yep.
So they have their internal membership platform, and that can act as a little bit more proprietary where you have a little bit more customization. You can actually put your app in the app store. So that's the end goal for it for sure. And I'm okay keeping the free version on School. When we launch some kind of paid version or coaching or something like that, definitely I'm going to want to do it on our own platform. I think, as of right now, that might change. I know WAP is another big one that's coming out, WHOP, but we'll see. I'm not mad about School right now. It's been going decent. It's reliable, I should say that.
No, I like that. And hey, it's very marketable. School with a K. Like, come on,
Sure that.
you're a marketer. You got to appreciate that, right?
Hey, no, absolutely. It's on our ads that we're running for it. So, it's definitely on there. That's funny.
Actually, I'd like to go back just a second to the AI and a lot of marketing, and we're going into AI tools to automate making ads and making videos and things. Do you think that we should be doing that, or should we be still kind of crafting them ourselves?
For now, I would say AI is going to give you better results because there's not as many people using AI. So with AI, you could feed it all of this data and say, hey, make me 10 ads, 10 marketing hooks, whatever it might be, and then put those in place. Down the road, everybody's going to be doing that with AI. So then you're going to have to fall back on actual creative ideas. Like I just took an ad where I was filming myself on Snapchat and it cuts out your head and then there's like a cut back here. So it's like you could turn and it looks like you're just a mask. And AI would never spit that out and tell me to do that, but that ad is doing the best out of all of them we launched. So I think for now you could definitely use AI and get solid results. But I think after AI becomes even more relevant, even more than it is right now, you're always going to have to fall back on the creative mind of a human because AI doesn't know, exactly what is going on, in terms of I'm trying to think because I guess it does kind of know, what's going on in terms of, new topics or different trends and as it gets more ingrained. I think it also depends how you prompt ChatGPT because if you get crazy and put your creative spin on I mean, the common denominator is always relying back on the individual. That's my answer.
I like
It's a
that.
good question. That's a very good
Well, that's another thing. I mean, I'm wondering what's going to happen with paid advertising and stuff, right? Because there's all these AI tools that are out. And if everybody starts using that, I mean, are we just gonna get priced out? Or I mean, already Google was at what, like, 3, 4, $5 a click, or, $60 or $70 per acquisition, right? But if everybody starts using AI, do you think that's going to maybe well, I don't know. Do you think they're just gonna make it more efficient and the pricing will go down, or do you think prices will just go up astronomically because everyone's using it?
I think it depends on the platform because if you look at why is an ad a specific amount, it's either it's super competitive or it's super bad or good. So if it's a competitive market, you're always going to have an increased price. But the best ad is always going to have the cheapest price versus a bad ad that people aren't clicking on is going to inherently be more. But at the end of the day, you always have the same amount of people that are like the same amount of volume of, X amount of searches. I think it's always going to stay relatively the same. I think you're going to have a lot more competition for the lowest cost. But then it also depends on the platform, because if the platform sees that, these ads are doing really well, they could just artificially drive up the CPM, or like the cost to get in front of people. And then at the end of the day, it's always what business can pay the most to acquire a customer. Because the business that can pay the most to acquire a customer is gonna do the best. So there's that too. A lot of different factors, but knowing how these platforms operate most likely will get more expensive, just because they wanna make more money.
So, just as we're discussing this, I just had a thought pop into my mind, and let me know what you think about it. As we're talking about this and talking about high ticket coaching programs, maybe we have high ticket coaching programs because we have to spend $1,000 per acquisition on a lead because there's so much competition. I mean, do you think that could be a reason?
I think it's I think there's definitely correlation. I'll give you an example. When I got started, again, this is 10 years ago. For me at the time, a high ticket course was 3 grand that I had bought into. I had bought into another one off a webinar for 1,000, and then another one for 2,000. And then, fast forward to now, that same course is $10,000. I think it's both the cost per acquisition. I absolutely think that definitely plays a role. Over time, there's inflation with just the overall economy. There's inflation with more people advertising, higher cost per acquisition, more competition. And then I also think if the consumer's willing to pay for the product, then people are going to charge more. So if you're charging 3 grand and you're like, hey, let's up it to 4 grand and see if people buy, and my close rate only drops 1%, it was at 25%, now it's at 24%. Well, we're making 25% more money, but our close rate only dropped 1%. So we're going to keep the price at the 4K. So it's also, is the consumer buying the product at the higher price? Which I also would say that also plays a big role, because as there becomes like more awareness about high ticket programs and investing in yourself and all that kind of stuff, then people have the ability to charge more. Whereas you used to have to, like, you look at Tony Robbins, where he preached, invest in yourself and all this kind of stuff. And then he was able to get the money out of the people, where now it's like an inherent belief that people know that they need to educate themselves, and it's easier to then charge more money. Long answer to a simple question.
So for all the high ticket programs and the price gouging, we got to blame Tony Robbins.
Yeah,
That's what I got.
basically, yes.
Just kidding, Tony. In case you're watching this, no, not true at all. We're just having a bit of fun. Well, Jake, this has been a great conversation. A lot of great insights. We are coming up pretty close to the time. Is there anything you wish I would have asked but didn't ask, or anything you feel that we should cover that we didn't cover?
Not that I can think of. Yeah, those were the great questions. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Jake. And just before we go, what's the best way that we can learn about this community, or reach out and ask questions of you?
Absolutely. Yeah. So just jakesetterland.com. So just my name.com. We have the link to the community. It's called Setterland University. So original, I know, but that link is on the website. And then, any kind of contact and social media is on there as well.
Excellent. And to our listeners, don't worry about grabbing a pen and paper. We are going to have that in the show notes for you, so it'll be easy for you to find. Jake, once again, thank you so much for being on the show. And to all our listeners, once again, thank you for tuning in. And, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. And we'll see you again next time.